Peace family. Greetings from 3 hours upstate New York in rural Grafton, Soulfire Farm. It's really an honor to be here today. Like you, I have dedicated my life to ending racism and injustice in the food system. So the movement for Black Lives is really about ending all forms of state-sponsored violence against our people. And we're really familiar with the way the state uses mass incarceration and police murder to subjugate our people. We also know that there are other forms of this state-sponsored violence. There's housing discrimination. There is differential responses to natural disasters like Khalil was talking about. There is substandard education for some of our children. But actually the leading cause of death in our communities is bad food, is processed food that leads to startling rates of diabetes, heart disease, depression, anxiety, ADHD, and cancer that are killing our people. And our ancestors knew that land and food were essential to our survival, all the way back to our ancestral mothers who put rice grains and okra seeds in their braids before they boarded transatlantic slave ships, knowing that was the most precious physical thing that they could hide and carry. To my own Haitian ancestors who in 1804 drove the enslavers off the island so they could have sovereignty over their own land. To ancestor George Washington Carver, who gave us regenerative farming, which we now know as organic farming, and forget to credit to our Black ancestors at Tuskegee Institute. To ancestor Booker T. Whately, who invented the CSA, he called it the Clientele Membership Club, and ancestor Fannie Lou Hamer, who helped us understand how to cooperatize our land ownership and our farms, and all of the thousands of Black landowners in the South during the Civil Rights Movement who led voter registration campaigns and provided shelter, food, housing, and safe haven to the activists who came from out of state during Freedom Summer. We wouldn't have had a civil rights movement if we didn't own land. But we're in trouble right now as a Black community. We've lost now over 90% of the land that we had amassed by 1910 through our own blood, sweat, and tears. And farming has become the whitest profession in the United States of America, according to the last agricultural census. Further, our communities are under food apartheid. The USDA terms it food deserts, but it's not a natural phenomenon when certain people have access to life-giving food and other people have access only to food that makes us sick and is killing us. And, you know, Malcolm X and many of our leaders really encouraged us to remember that land is the basis of our wealth, the basis of our freedom, our independence, our survival, our justice, our equality. And I don't have all the answers, but with the little resources that we have upstate, the land that we have, we've dedicated ourselves to empowering our own Black and brown communities to own land, to be able to farm, to run our own food businesses, and to feed our people. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about, summarize the work that we're doing, and hopefully you'll come to the panel on food as a tool to end mass incarceration so you can learn more about that. So one thing is we set up a Ujamaa Farm Share. This is CSA Share, where we work exclusively with food apartheid communities and do doorstep delivery. So we're up to, I think, 80 families that work with us, and they each receive, 10 to 15 vegetables, fruits, eggs, meat, per week at discounted prices. We accept SNAP, EBT, and a lot of families that we work with say because upstate there's no mass transit, there's no way to get to a grocery store, so you live in a food desert, you truly are in a food desert. It's not even an option, and so people would say they would just get boiled pasta if it wasn't for the vegetable deliveries. We also have been asked by a lot of folks all around the nation to train people in a culturally relevant, culturally respectful manner on how to run a rural farm. And so we have established week-long, 2-week-long, and season-long apprenticeship programs called the Black and Latino Farmers Immersion, where we not only learn farming skills, larger scale farming skills and cooking skills, but also the whole history of Black and Latino farming and how to focus on healing our own inherited trauma from the legacy of slavery and oppression on lands. And more than the skills, I think what has really touched me about these programs is almost universally, people come out saying, this experience has helped me realize that I can't settle anymore. I can't go back to eating crappy. I can't go back to the bullshit. I need to live as if I were free today, starting today. And thank you. And so we started collaborating with some other farmers who also really believe in the intersections of social justice and food justice. This is my friend Jalal, and he catalyzed the Freedom Food Alliance, where we as farmers put our food together and make sure that it gets to incarcerated people and their loved ones. And Jalal also, with his comrades, drives this bus that provides transportation from New York City to the upstate prisons. And people who are part of the farm share and receive the food, they get the free ride on the bus. And while folks are on the bus, it becomes an organizing space to talk about movement for Black lives, to talk about, ending the new Jim Crow and building those networks and relationships. And also in this vein of really looking at the criminal injustice system, we worked out an agreement with Albany and Schenectady County District Attorney, where we can have youth come to our farm for a training program as an exchange, as an alternative sentencing, so that they do not have to go to juvenile detention or have other punitive measures. And that has been really important, because right now there are no options for youth really to get out of this school to prison pipeline, and everything for them has been just so disrespectful and dehumanizing. And so to really welcome them into, Black-owned land and into family, and have us cooking together and growing food to bring back to the community has been very important, and not an easy road, because the DA and those folks want to give up on these kids left and right, and we've really had to teach them what restorative justice actually means. And it's not just youth who are court involved. We have all kinds of youth coming to our farm. A lot of kids from foster care, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA will come out for one-day or multi-day trainings that are just so beautiful and so much fun. And of course, we're teaching skills, but also just that connection. I think so many of our young people in our community are feeling disconnected from themselves, from the earth, from anything that has meaning. Our capitalist society teaches young people to be consumers of media, of education, of technology, but doesn't really empower them to produce, to create. And there was one young man who came to our farm who was, like many, feeling really disconnected, and it was when we encouraged him to take off his shoes and feel the earth, under his feet. And at that moment that his foot contacted the earth, he actually had an ancestor come to be with him. His grandmother, who had passed, came to give him a message about his own connection and his own worth. And him sharing the story with the other youth got them to be thinking about their grandparents and the things they'd learned from their grandparents, and really finding their hearts again. And there's no way to really quantify that or measure it, but it happens every time. Our people really need land for so much more than just the material, but also for our spirits, our souls. And we take care of the earth because she takes care of us. We try to revive and highlight ancestral farming practices, including the mounding of soils in order to manage water, creating polycultures that capture nitrogen from the air and enrich soil biodiversity. We are following the Hebrew practice of Shemitah, of letting the land rest every 7 years and regenerate. And our structures, too, are in congruence with the landscape. We build everything with local materials from the land, and that is not easy. It took 4 years to build the house. It took 2 years to build the barn. We had to hand dig part of the foundation to turn it to face solar south, which is different from magnetic south. There's crying involved. There's, calloused, popping blisters involved. But we're really building structures that respect the earth and teaching people these skills as well. Thank you. And remembering, too, that we're not alone, that there's an international context. We've been collaborating deeply with our brothers and sisters in Haiti, in Mexico, and in Ghana to exchange knowledge and skills, because it truly is the peasant movement across the world that is going to be able to feed the global population without destroying the planet. And it's intersectionality among our movements as well. Farmers can't always leave the farm, so we couldn't make it to the national convening of Black Lives Matter, but we made our bodies into a BLM and just sent it to them. So there's a lot, and I don't have time to get into all of it, but we do a lot of trauma healing because we have inherited quite a bit of aversion to the land because of the way the oppression our ancestors have experienced on the land. And so we're working on healing, on teaching, on celebrating ourselves. And when we do find ourselves home on the lands, I think one of our participants said it best. She said, when I am here, I can know that we are solid as a rock. We are rooted as a tree. We are standing here strong in our rightful place. Thank you so much.